Welcome to the Tasty Escapes Advent Calendar. This is our canvas for the next 24 videos that we'll be posting the next 24 days. Every day there will be one recipe that is related to Christmas. But before we start that, we wanted to show you how to make this DIY Advent Calendar. Before I even start cutting, I wanted to plan where and how big the doors should be. I do like order, but with a bit of chaotic fun can't hurt. I used the side of the card box that I won't be using and drew on with our huge ruler. After we were happy with the sizes and shapes, I started to coordinate which number should go where. Naturally, the last day should be the biggest and in the center. I colored them in so that we don't get confused later on which one was tagged or not. In between, my mom would ask why I'd even bothered to do that, but it turns out I drew one door too much. So everybody who loves DIY, plan twice, make once. Nothing is more discouraging than finding mistakes that can break the whole project. When I was happy with that, I cut the box down to the depth I desired. As the bags had that tear away part, I measured and cut it just below that. I'd rather have too much depth than too little. But I wanted to be safe, as at that point I didn't know yet which kind of recipes I would present. This step turned out to be really unnecessary because I almost never use the back side of the calendar, so you can keep those parts in the box if you want to. With that support gone from the inside, I used some duct tape to strengthen the whole structure. Then it is time to copy the plan onto the actual part. Thinking back, I could have just used a big enough piece of paper and glued that in, but well, you always know better once you have done something, right? When that was done, I used the leftover parts of the carton and cut them to the height I needed. I really love those cutting mats. It has a ruler and it is sturdy enough not to get cut on the first instance. I know it's a no-brainer for many, but I didn't have one until my mom moved into my apartment, so now I steal hers. And now it's time for our trusty glue gun. No questionable hacks here with that. I cut the carton pieces so that they line up well, and wherever there are gaps, I just fill it with a bit more glue. Aesthetics aren't a big deal here, as we'll align them later on. While crafting with the boxes, I suspected that my cats wouldn't want to leave me alone. I was surprised that this was the only time Locum checked on me what the hell I was doing there. Those little pests never leave me alone otherwise. When the inside was done, I glued on a velvet that we had left over. The dark green really suited the theme, so I went for it. I just used the glue gun again, but sadly the length wasn't quite long enough, so I needed to patch that up with a smaller piece. I aligned it so that it would be on the downside and not visible to anybody. I could have cut the extra length on the back off and call it a day, but it looked much better with being folded that way. And it is extra protection from my little furry asshats. Now to my favorite part, the inner lining. I had printed out a few free Christmas-themed prints. At that point, I really wished I had kept my old wrapping papers, as those would have looked beautiful. I actually considered drawing my own as well, but opted for these in the end. I cut them so that they would sit snugly. I added a bit of Polygon glue, PVA glue would just go as well, and pushed it in. For the sides, I pushed them in so that the corners can form on their own. After that, I applied the glue and stuck it in. As the print wasn't long enough, I added another piece, and that's it for the box. I pretty much did that to all the parts. I loved how the different patterns turned out, and I was feeling half guilty to hide those behind doors. For those pesky corners, I got myself a ribbon close to the color of the velvet and started to carefully apply those. The glue gun was a real help here again. A little disclaimer though, be careful with the glue gun. I burnt myself pretty bad on the tip of my index finger. For someone whose work consists of typing, that was a pain. If you don't like glue guns, you could probably go with a different kind of glue. It'll take a bit longer while drying, but safety first. Once I was done with the corners, I made mock doors out of paper so that I won't have to make too many changes to the hard cardstock I got for the doors. Modifying paper is lots easier, and I say it again, plan twice, make once. Call it my German nitpicking site. After I cut out the doors out of the cardstock, I bent the part that will be glued in. That part will work as the hinge, so try to keep it fairly long so that it won't get pulled away on the first touch. I had printed out numbers and cut those out carefully. With some glue, it got stuck onto the door and ta-da! You got some numbers on. As this one is the special door of our calendar, it got the glitter treatment. It was kind of risky working with glitter on the carpet, but I really liked the result. I liked it that much that I added more glitter to the frame of the door as well. Finally, as we want the doors to open after all, I added some gift ribbon, which I attached to the back of the door. When it was all dried up, it was time to attach the door to the calendar itself. It was a bit tedious because I had to press the door into its place until the glue dried. I must say, the waiting and all the work paid off. I didn't want to leave the doors plain, so I used some Tipp-Ex and white watercolor to add some snow. Some decorations were needed too, so I made some little thingies out of felt, and I must say I love the gingerbread man. My tiny Christmas tree will get more decorations as well, don't worry. And I praised Locum too early, I guess. She, of course, had to waltz in while I was just away for a few seconds. Otherwise, thank God, the cats didn't touch the calendar, even though it was pretty much propped up for more than a month in their normal roaming path, if you know what I mean. So thank you for watching till the end of this video. See you tomorrow on our first day of the Tasty Escapes video advent calendar. This is quite a mouthful. Drop a like to support us and subscribe if you don't want to miss our next 24 days of Christmassy deliciousness.